Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahe, Tejasvina vadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The purpose of this iron ball and fire, it's to show the relationship of how there is a mutual superimposition. And mutual superimposition means when one, the qualities of one get attributed onto the other, and the other's stuff gets attributed onto the other. And so there's this kind of a mix-up. So I don't know if I'm a material being, a spiritual being, an immortal being, a mortal being, a divine being, a physical being, and this is everyone's experience because of this superimposition. And it obtains as an experience such as, I am, which belongs to, in this case, the fire that lights up the conditions of your eye sense, right? Consciousness. I am, and then we mention the scar that belongs to our eye sense, so that we say I am like this, right? Or we whatever. So the right understanding is that awareness is the invariable presence throughout the entire, right, from beginning to end, right? No matter what happens, it's the substratum onto which these changes depend on. Whereas when it comes to a thought or an I sense, thought is never apart from awareness. It will never be apart from awareness. You can't have it, a thought that is apart from awareness. And you can't have awareness that is apart from thought, because they are mutually, right, connected. As long as you're alive, they will always be together. So trying to experience pure awareness, that can't happen. The closest you can come is nirvikalpa samadhi. But even then, it's going to be like 5 or 10 minutes of, just pure kind of beingness. And so what, right? So we're not interested in 5 minutes of little experience. We're about understanding the reality now, how it's manifesting, and making things kind of move and, and change. And throughout these changes, there's this invariable presence. I am, I am, I am. So the thought changes. At the same time, the content of every thought is always I am. That's why you are always aware of every thought, because every thought is made out of I am, is made out of awareness. So no matter what thought you have, I know that that thought exists. Why? Because that thought is awareness. So where the error happens is then we give more value to the thought, forgetting about the most obvious fact that this thought cannot exist without that which is giving it its light. That's just giving it sort of its luminosity. That's why all your thoughts shine. That's why all your thoughts they're there, because the thought is awareness. It's made out of awareness, including the thought that you're about to ask me now, which you're very much aware of.
Maybe I'm getting a bit carried away, but you're saying awareness is everywhere. But if I'm dead,
yeah,
but awareness is still there.
Yeah, your body.
But what is it that's making me alive? Awareness is everywhere, and it's there when I'm dead.
What's making your body, your subtle and your gross body alive, is the functionaries that make the body together, like your heart, lungs, and all of this together, and the brain. All of this is, made to work. You can have very much a person that's in a coma who's still breathing, but they're unconscious, because the subtle body is not there, but the body is working independently, right? It's breathing by itself, but there's no awareful being. So the awareful being is that one who enters, right, the body. That's called the subtle body. But what we're saying is you're not even the subtle body. You are the awareness of your thoughts that are coming and going. Because you don't need a body to know that you are. You don't, for example, in a dream, right, you still know that you are, right? Why? Because your mind, because you're there, but on top of you, there's a mind. So therefore, in the presence of I, in the waking state, there is an experience of body. There's an experience of, okay, so in the waking state, what information are you getting? The body, right? Sensations of the body. When the dream comes, then the sensation is gone of the body. That's why the pain is gone. But what's still being received into the I sense? The intellect, the mind, and the memory. Now, when the deep sleep comes, then the I sense is temporarily resolved. But tell me this, are you looking forward to go to sleep, or you're afraid of going out of existence? You can hardly wait to go to sleep. So what does this imply? Even though your physical body is not there, and your subtle body is not there, and you're looking forward to sleep. And even upon waking up, you say, you know, sleep was wonderful. And if I say to you, are you looking forward to sleep? Are you saying, suppose you say to me, I'm looking forward to sleep tonight. Are you telling me I'm looking forward to a dream? No. What are you specifically saying when you say, I'm looking forward to sleep? I'm looking for that place when there's no Andre. I'm looking for that place when there's no Andre and all of the stuff that's assigned onto this individual. So this means if I'm looking forward to the absence of Andre, then by definition I have to be someone that is free of Andre. Otherwise, you would be very scared to go to sleep because you would go out of existence. But you're looking forward to get rid of your personality. And your personality is called a subtle body, right? You're looking forward to go to sleep to get rid of something that doesn't belong to me. So what does this show? It shows that I'm neither the physical body, because I'm gladly willing to let go of the physical body, nor can I be the thoughts that make up this personality, because I'm gladly looking to get rid of that too. If I want to go to sleep, I don't want to dream. It's just more problems. I want to get rid of the person. I want that unity, right? That unity without a second. One self. That's what I want. So that shows you that that is your nature. And then upon waking, you say, I slept very well. I slept happily. I slept, I slept really well. It was a really nice experience. So it shows you that who was there, whoever, whatever you're referring to, that nice experience is not referring to your body, is not referring to your thoughts. So you're referring to something other than your body and other than your thoughts. And what is that you're referring to? That which was there during sleep, deep sleep. And is still here now during the waking state. And will be there during the dream state also. So look at this. So you have these three states. You have the waking, the dream, and the deep sleep. And the I sense throughout them changes. In the waking, the I sense is very different than in your dream, right? Because I sense can be kind of like, I'm a king, I am a king now. And then in the dream, I am a beggar. Yeah. And then in the deep sleep, I'm neither a king nor a beggar. So the I sense, the fact that it's going through three states and changing through three states shows us that it itself is mithya. Because mithya always changes based on what variables is associated to the world, associated to my memories, associated to nothing. It's still changing. So, and then again, what's the relationship between the I sense and you, the awareness? It is just like this clay pot. Wherever there is an I, that's exactly where reality is. So do I have to look for the reality? Do I have to look for the reality in some special place, in a meditation? Because in a meditation, I know that I am. Out of meditation, I know that I am. In a very peaceful place, I am there. In a very rough place, I am there. That's why later on you come and say, hey, there was awareness of that moment when there was a very rough place. There was awareness of that. And now, right, there's awareness of having a very peaceful moment. So the awareness carries forward from beginning to the end, from the beginningless beginning to the endless end. But what's changing in the light of this awareness, which is always shining on every condition of your I sense, is a drk. And that drk is always the same for everyone. So your Drg that's shining this person, looking at this person now, it's exactly the same Drg that is shining on this brain, on this mind, through which this world is seen now, you're seeing now. You see, one self. So the wise person connects at what is common rather than what's different. Like when this fellow looks at you, I'm not like, yeah, forms are fine, forget about forms. We've been doing that all our lives, focusing on forms. Where's the connection? It's in the fact that, there's one Drg here, one Drg looking through different eyes.
Andre, so waking, dream, and deep sleep. Waking, we experience everything as I am. Dream, I am a pauper. Deep sleep, I don't know because I am in deep sleep. But when you wake up, when you say, I slept well, okay, is that the I sense saying it because Drg will not be saying it?
Yeah, sure. So there's an answer to this. So during sleep, in Sanskrit, we have what's called abhava vritti. Abhava vritti is a memory that still retains while they're sleeping. So this memory is accessed upon waking. And during sleep, so your memory is not completely gone during sleep. It's still active. That which is active is called abhava vritti. That means that which cognizes the absence of thoughts. It cognizes the absence of experience. Now, upon waking, abhava vritti is still there. But now suddenly your memory starts to record something. So in reference to having recorded nothing, and now memory suddenly recording something, in reference to that little gap, I say, there was nothing. You see? So the memory is still operational. So therefore, there is a memory, but what's inside the memory? Nothing. And upon waking, that memory is available, and I say, yep, there was nothing. Sleep. That's what records the whole, absence of thoughts and so on.
You talked about the case when the body is in coma, but the subtle body is not there. The moment subtle body comes in, you are into waking state, right? That's what you said, or?
No, there is. I know. It's a model, right? So they say on one hand, the subtle body is resolved in a causal body. On the other hand, to explain specifically deep sleep, there's an aspect of the subtle body that is still available, and that available aspect is called abhava vritti, memory. So there is a section of memory that's available. Yeah. So yeah, it's just to explain how is it that there is a memory of nothingness, because awareness has no memory. Right? It's not like awareness remembered, because we said awareness is unborn, it's attributeless. So there's something that remembers it. A memory remembers it. So, but here's the point, like, okay, so what? How does this apply to me now? What do I do with this information? It shows you that even in the absence of thoughts, absence of world, I am. In the presence of the world, I am. So it just wants to show you don't need a physical body. You don't need all of these kind of like I sense and calculations and inferences to know that you are. You know that you are irrespective, even when there's nothing and even when there's something. So absence of thoughts are in the presence of I. Presence of thoughts are in the presence of I. Okay. So see, this variable thought is called mithya. Now, I also want to mention time and space. So I said everything in the universe is, right, concept and awareness. What's the relationship? Satya, mithya. But even space and time is satya, mithya, right? Space and time is mithya. And in reference to awareness, awareness is satyam. So how do we show that even space, that which accommodates everything, and time is also dependent upon awareness? You see the question? Because, yeah, it's easy. I can just analyze, right now the object, and I can say the object, reduces into particles, particles reduce into concepts, concepts reduce, and then obviously in the presence of the seer, there's a concept, right? But now, what about space right now and time, right? So we began this class 15 minutes ago. How do you show that time has no existence apart from you right now? So you know, when Einstein, I mean, the Rishis knew this already, right? But when Einstein came, he showed the general theory of relativity. And he kind of did a interesting, I don't know how he came up with this, but he said that if you had two twins and you had one twin going at light speed and one twin stays right here, and then they somehow come together, then would they still be the same age? He says no. Now, I don't know how he did this, you know, what the premise of what, but in that sense, it shows that if you go into a different kind of speed, right, the physical body literally ages differently because the time was very different than for Earth. If you go to outer space right now, in outer space, there's no objects, right? Outer space, outside the ozone layer. And how is your time going to be outer space compared to on Earth? When you have and you've got no clock up there. I think we have to go to outer space now to figure this out, right? It was a Virgin Galactic, right, or something. It's going to be very different. Did you ever notice that if you are in a familiar environment, your time is very different than being in an unfamiliar environment? Yeah. So this means, you know, I am there in the presence of I. There's a sense of time that is familiar, and in the presence of I, there's a sense of time that is unfamiliar. So even the sense of time, whether it's familiar or unfamiliar, has a mithya relationship to the aware of that sense of time. The other example is very nice in Pitr Paksha, you know, for those of us who know, is when the ancestors give once a year gratitude for those ancestors having passed on to us their values. So we give, you know, some prostrations to our ancestors once a year. Where? To those ancestors who are living in Pitraloka. Okay? Now for them, for us, we're giving once a year, but they're receiving it once a day. Right? Because for them, time is very different. So I thought it's a very nice example how the Rishis already understood. Based on the world, right, that you're in, your time is very different. For here, it's like 1 year. For them, it's like, oh, just wake up. Oh, thank you very much for your prostrations. It's amazing. The other example to show relativity of time is, I use this in Tattva Bodha, and, you know, typical, right? You're waiting at the bus, and, you know, you want to get there, maybe late to work, and the bus is coming in 5 minutes. Okay, and you're sitting there and come on, go. I want to, you know, go get somewhere, and it's like taking such a long time. Now suppose, you know, then there's a couple who are dating right on the bus station. Kind of funny thing, right, to see, and they're sitting on a dinner table, little nice candle. Suppose there's no wind that day, and for them they also have 5 minutes. How is your time going to be when you're by yourself waiting for the bus to come as soon as possible, and their time when they're having a wonderful time, they're having a blast? It's going to be like 1 second. For you, it's going to be like, oh my God, come on. Look at this. The environment is the same, but from the standpoint of drk, from this body's standpoint, sense of time is long. From the standpoint, the drk, from the standpoint of this body, the sense of time is like that. So both the sense of time for being long and short depends on that which is free of time. That's the only way you can tell that the sense of time is different if I'm outside of time. Okay? So similarly with space, right? How do you show that space also depends on the drk for its existence? Easy. I'll use my personal example. My parents and I, we built a house, and I was 5, and I was carrying these big bricks, you know, and then this is how village life is. You make your own house. You don't buy houses, you make it. So, and this house is very special to me because it is a childhood home. And that house was huge. The space inside the room, the room was huge. So I decided to visit this house again, 2010. And I thought, what is this shack? You know, it's like tiny thing. So the sense of time, the sense of space, right, totally changed based on the perception of that of the Drg who was carrying a body when he was 5, and the sense of perception of time is very different for that one who's, carrying a body, the Drg carrying a body when he's whatever, what was it, 26 or something. Okay, so even the sense of space, what space means for me, the best way to think about space is you have 2 points, point 1 and point 2. Okay, so the measurement in between is what we call space. So you need objects for space, I get it, but that sense of space also depends on that one who is free of space. That's the only way you can have sense of space, if to be other than space, to be different from, to be the illuminator of space. Just like during dream, right now, there is a space in this world, but in your dream, when you create your own world, your sense of space is very different. Yeah? So this means I am right now illuminating the space in this waking state, and I'm also illuminating the space in the dream. Therefore, time and space itself is mithya in reference to the illuminator, which is satyam. Okay. So what we want to show so far, before moving on to the next verse, is that there's only 2 things you need to show that you are free of everything. There's only 2 proofs you need. And these 2 proofs, you can just put it in the present. You don't have to kind of use logic. The first proof is that awareness survives the comings and goings of all of the experiences. So what doesn't survive is the experiences, the thoughts, the memories, the sensations. So that which doesn't survive is mithya. That which survives to witness the unsurvivable, to witness, right, the comings and goings of thoughts, is satyam. You understand this? Before the thought comes, I am. While the thought is, I am. After the thought goes, I am. Right now, who is here illuminating the body who is about to fall asleep? Right? The same Drg that's illuminating this body, which is busy, speaking. Okay, so it's the same Drg. Therefore, the second is that awareness doesn't take on any attributes. Okay, so this means that, we have an example. If it doesn't take on one thought, if it doesn't take on an attribute, then you don't have to apply this logic to other thoughts. If this thought doesn't stick onto me, then the next thought is not going to stick to me either. So we have an example of this where we have a bottle. We have a clear bottle. Clear plastic bottle. Yeah. Is that one? Yeah, it's the same. So look at this. I have 3 colors. And suppose this is like awareness. And like clear, it just shows. And there's a color behind. So that's one thought. And then the totally different thought, which is black. Okay? And then a totally different thought in awareness, which is green, red, right? And black. Okay? So there's 2 kinds of people now who will have an experience about this. One of them will conclude that awareness is never free of thoughts, because it's like this, right? Constantly changing. One thought after another thought. There's no space in between. One thought after another thought after another thought. So you conclude, awareness is always stuck with an attribute. The second kind of person is going to make a different conclusion, and they're going to say, if black was stuck onto awareness, then by the time the red shows, you would still see the black. You see this? And by the time the red shows, right, you will not even see red anymore. You would still see the black. So the fact that awareness is always free to take on another thought without carrying the attributes of the previous thought implies that awareness is attributeless. It is free of your problems. It is free of your joys. It is free of your concerns. It is free of your life. Okay? That's what we mean by awareness is free, and that happens to be you. And the error is to put, right, our attention onto that which is not free, which is thought after thought after thought. So it's just a cognitive shift where your perception is. It's not an experience or kind of feeling. It's just a cognitive shift. Okay, verse 8 and 9. Three kinds of ego identifications. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshi bhihi sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam cha trividham kramat. See, what the essence of what it's saying is, this I sense, which was since beginningless time, this I sense that makes up the individual. Remember Raj?
Yeah.
They had an I sense. The person before Raj had an I sense. Now Andre has an I sense too. Okay? The only thing that's attached onto the I sense is the data, because every life is different. And if you're born in 1500s, then the environment that you're born in is going to be very different than, right, the year 2024, right? 4, right? Whatever, 5, 6. Next year is going to be 5. So it's saying that this I sense has 3 kinds of identifications. So three kinds of, it makes 3 errors. Let's put it this way. It makes 3 errors. The I sense is firstly connected to what's called chit chaya, which is a sense of smallness. I know you're going to say reflected consciousness. I'll explain. Chit chaya is just a sense of smallness. So, see, it means reflected consciousness, but I'll explain like this. See, when they say, have you heard of reflected consciousness before? Reflected consciousness? Yeah. See, the idea with reflected consciousness is you have a bucket, 3 buckets of water, and they're different size. And there's a clear sky, and there's a sun shining. And the sun is going to illumine the bucket of water and their state of dirtiness or cleanness. So every bucket is going to have a different kind of water, clean water, dirty water, and so on. So now, reflected consciousness, what it wants to say is when this one light, right, shines onto the bucket, then the bucket takes itself as I am. But what comes with this I am? The state of the water, right? It's kind of equivalent to the mind. So all of the imperfections of the mind kind of like, oh, this is who I am, right? So one sun is going to be illumining many kind of minds, right? So the bucket in the water is the mind and the physical body, just an example. So, but the problem with this is it kind of, when you say reflected consciousness, reflected light, that's what reflected light is, right? That light which is shining onto the bucket. Okay? So reflected consciousness is just like that. One consciousness, and it shines on many, many minds, and that, from the standpoint of that mind, it's called reflected. But Dayananda, I also noticed that many people are forced to kind of create 2 types of consciousnesses, right? There's a reflected consciousness, and there is original consciousness. Just like there's original light of the sun, and there is like reflected light. But that's not really the intention of the example, even though, right, it kind of forces the mind to create 2 kinds of consciousnesses. So this is why I don't use reflected consciousness. So to understand this a little bit better is how to explain your experience. And as I said yesterday, all-pervading consciousness is, right now, all-pervading consciousness. In the presence of this all-pervading consciousness, a body grows. And when the body grows, from the standpoint of that one body, it seems like consciousness is now confined. Yeah? For example, in all-pervasive space, suddenly a cup is born. And from the standpoint of that cup, it seems like it is, the space seems like it is confined. I mean, the space was totally fine before the cup came. Now the cup comes, and suddenly that space, which was always fine, seems to be confined. Yeah? From the standpoint of the cup. So this as though confinement is what we call reflected consciousness. So now you say, how is this important? What does this mean? It means, yesterday Diederik brought the question, why do we experience, if there is one reality, why do we experience ourselves as many? Right? Why do I experience myself over here and you experience yourself over there? Even though you are everywhere, why do we experience ourselves everywhere? The reason is because of this as though confinement. You are one cup, like Andre is another cup, another person is another cup, but they're all, right, as though confining this space into this much. So what does this mean? Even though it seems like I am confined, am I really confined? See this? It's a cognitive understanding. Even though I seem confined sitting in this chair right now, am I really confined, knowing that consciousness is everywhere? No. This is exactly what it means to understand this knowledge. It's not a feeling. Now, you may feel different about this than I do, but that's your stuff. So the body as though confines you. So, okay, right now you say, oh, geez, this is not very exciting. Is it? Who said it's supposed to be exciting? You see? So this is how the brain wants to always make it something huge, right? The mind loves this experience thing. It's not supposed to be exciting or non-exciting. It's just simple, down to the earth understanding. Sahajam, it is so natural because everybody gets born in consciousness. And what is the natural assumption? I am here and you are over there. Is it any different? Did you ever find someone who is just kind of born and suddenly they understand I am everywhere, or they have this amazing wisdom? Everyone's experience is naturally, there is a body, I am here, you're over there. So it's natural. Okay, deha. How is your eye sense connected to your body? Your eye sense is connected to your body right now. It's connected through genes. It's connected through what else? Food you eat. It's connected to what else? It says here, karma jam. So it's past actions have sculpted your body right now. So why are you carrying this body now? And why am I carrying this body now? Because of past actions, right? So some Raj has done something, right? Done something in previous lifetimes to have sculpted this individual to be who they are right now. And see, this is a topic of karma. I just want to mention a few words about karma. How are we feeling, by the way? I see people a little bit dozing off. It's a very unique thing to the Vedas, this karma. And the idea is, I use an example in Tattva Bodh, I'll use it again. Suppose you have a preference for food, a certain type of food, and you want to put that food in a pot, right? Now the question is, what kind of foods are you going to put inside your pot? The foods that you like, right? So what determines the foods that you like? Many, many causes that took place before. So when you put the food that you like inside the pot, suppose you like rotten food, and now you start to cook that food, what kind of smell is going to come out? Is it going to chase people away? Is it going to make people come closer to you? It's going to chase people away, right? Why? Oh, but I like this food, Yeah, and then you're going to justify, it's their problem, right? So if you put pleasant foods in your pot, then the smell is going to be such that you come out, you're just like, wow, where's the smell? You're going to start following this individual because they're so attractive. So like this pot is an example for what we call sanchita. Sanchita means all of the kind of the stuff that you have in your account, the kind of person that you are, sanchita. It's all of your past causes that you have through the Raj has put into the sanchita. And from sanchita, the total karmic account of all lifetimes comes out a certain fragrance. And that fragrance kind of sculpts the new person that they are right now. So the person could be pleasant, the person could be unpleasant. Depends on the smell that came out. Now the smell that comes out is called prarabdha karma. So prarabdha karma means just the smell assigned for one single lifetime. right? So that smell, what's going to come along with it? Your tendencies. That's why you can have prodigy children. I've been looking this up. They are so smart. They have they see mathematics. There's one kid who spoke at the Obama administration, and he's a mathematic prodigy, and he was discussing physics at the level of a university, about 25, doing that at the level of 3. This is amazing. So he was just so smart, people could not keep up with him. So he kept on being promoted. By the time he was 11, he was already at the top universities, right? It's like, where does this come from, right? That's called an orientation, a certain orientation, a smell that has sculpted this mind in such a way that they are naturally able to capture realities like that. Simple. But for the rest of us, it's very hard. But just like you got born with a certain personality, which has strengths and weaknesses. Where do those strengths come from? They can't be randomly assigned, because suppose you say your strength and weakness is randomly assigned, then my natural question is, who assigned it? God?
You.
If God assigned it, then what would be the problem with that? Suppose you just came to this world and you didn't do anything to deserve the orientations that you come with. You didn't do anything to deserve your parents, your family, the situations you were put in, the kind of mind that you didn't do anything to deserve it. It was just a random assignment. Then the question is, who randomly assigned it? The Creator. So that means if it's the Creator is a sadist. Because he says, I'm going to put you with parents who are going to be very abusive towards you, and I'm going to put your neighbors in a privileged home. But there's a contradiction, because that person who is abusive is going to cause trouble to those who are privileged. So God made a big mistake, right? Because a troublemaker ruins everyone else's life, more or less. But God goes, oh, no. You're going to have a very nice family, and you're going to have, alcoholic tendencies, get with the bad boys, get with drugs, get with all of this nonsense. Could you trust the Creator like that?
No.
Could I trust the Creator like that to give me moksha? Because that means if I didn't do anything to deserve this body, this kind of mind, then no matter what I do in this life, there's no guarantee of moksha. Because after all, God just randomly gives people good privileges or bad privileges. You see? So you can't say just the personality that you're given is a random assignment. We have no problems understanding this karma, this continuity of life when it comes to your genes, your physical genes. You can't see your grandparents, but your genes enjoy your grandparents' genes because they got passed down. But when it comes to personality, what do? No, it's not like that with personality. For the first time ever, this personality was created in this life. So we accept it for the gross body, but when it comes to for personality, we reject it. Why? Because I am not comfortable. Just because I'm not comfortable, I reject it. Is that fair? I tell you, Westerners have a huge problem with this karma. They gladly accept this genes business, but when it comes to personality business, nah. It was the first time creation ever. Find me one thing in this universe whose cause and effect relationship lasts only 80 years. Right? It starts for the first time ever, and it ends, and that's it. You can't find anything in this world that suddenly begins and it suddenly ends and it leaves no traces in the world whatsoever. Can't do it. Look at a rock, hundreds of causes. Look at a body, hundreds of causes. Your personality, also hundreds and hundreds, thousands of different causes which have sculpted it. So all the Vedas wants to show is, just because I don't see the source or the origins of my personality doesn't mean that it is for the first time being created in this life. There is a cause-effect relationship that extends far beyond my view, and that cause-effect relationship simply continues to create a new body, a new effect. And the body becomes a cause for more actions, puts actions into the world. And those actions sculpt the person that I will be in the future. Isn't it true that 20 years from now, who will you be as a person 20 years from now? You will be this person plus all of the things you've done 20 years from now, every day. Is that true? And who are you right now as a person, as your personality? Are you independent of the last 20 years? No. Completely dependent of all of the choices you have taken in the last 20 years. That's who you are now. All Vedas wants to show is this cause-effect relationship isn't just stuck to this lifetime. It goes way, way, way outside this lifetime. And this is what we call a continuity of life, a circle of life. So karma. Karma just means that there is this continuity of life. For every cause, there is an effect. And it's not contradicting reality, because it's just saying that if this happened, suppose I come with a black eye. What's the first question you ask me? What happened? So in other words, I came with an effect. Immediately, you want to know the cause. Your body is a black eye, suppose. Your birth is a black eye. What happened? Well, parents' conception happened. What else happened? Well, they met. That also happened. What else happened? Now that you need the Vedas to show you. There's something beyond that. Okay? You may not see it, but it's there. So this is the karma cause-effect relationship. So therefore, the I sense is connected to why you're enjoying this body, because of karma jam, past causes, which I don't see. Yeah, there's an evolution. So the kind of life that you live today is the kind of life that the next person called, what shall we name them? Nagesh. Okay, so the kind of life that you're living now is a kind of life that Nagesh will be living in the next life, right? So there's a lot there's two views to this actually, right? They say something's kind of a random. One life you're a saint, next life you're an insect. Another model which makes more sense is there's this continuity, a continuity of the life you're living now. Suppose living right dharmically, right, keeping with the laws. Next life you just continue that exact process. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no real way to tell because no one's there to check up. You understand? So there's no real way. But it seems to be this continuation, this sequential, right? Evolution.
So when we talk about moksha, what happens to Nagesh?
Okay, good. So Nagesh is the future guy. So the present guy, right, is developing impressions, very kind of impressions keeping with reality. So now the fella dies, and all of these impressions are stored somewhere. We call this the causal body. It's not a place, by the way. It's just an impression that is going to sculpt Nagesh. So Nagesh gets born in a family conducive for a religious family, right? A family that even has a guru. Look at like Sarva Priyananda. He was born with, in a family of religious followers who were having their own guru already. So you have to kind of explain this. Like, how are you born in such an amazing family who is associated to moksha, who is associated to the knowledge? Like, what gave you that privilege? Well, the fella, right, in this life was doing the right thing, following the rules of the game, following the knowledge, but they haven't understood the whole reality. Therefore, Nagesh, for him, it becomes much easier. They just find themselves in these points of personality. You just attract the right people. You attract the guru likes you. You become, friends, right? You become kind of associated with wise people. It's just a normal thing for you. Some people are like very afraid. Wow, they're a wise person, stay away. But some of us they like, it's like, hey, I'm attracted to you, right? So there's this natural attraction. And that is also that orientation that gets passed over to Nagesh, right? So for that fella, it becomes much easier.
Is there a need? Is there a need? When Ludwig gets moksha, is there a need Nagesh gets born?
Yes, that's what my question is. So Nagesh gets born in his spiritual family, in the example. But is there a possibility that he don't born at all? He reaches to a stage where there is no rebirth?
No. That's called no. Moksha means it's the end of life completely for a new body. Right? So Nagesh, I don't know who he is now. That's going to be associated with someone else's causal body. But the causal body that's right now making Andre, that causal body is destroyed. So there's going to be no continuity of this causal body next life. Yeah.
If you died previously, then does the causal body continue? Yeah. Well, but you still have this energy and all this wisdom or curiosity. Will it be transferred to? Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't go anywhere because the impressions get simply passed on. But as long as I am associated to my impressions, then I get born. I get born because it's the causal body that gives birth, right? Causal body, karma pala, that means the impressions of all your past actions. So this is Rajas karma pala, who has sculpted the Andres, that's having this life now, and also your impressions. So all of these impressions are constantly being changed based on what you do in this world. Okay? So if you do things like, associate with the right people, right knowledge, you're constantly changing the impressions and also changing the results of your actions. Therefore, when upon death, what happens? This dies. The top section dies. The physical body dies, and also the subtle body resolves. You don't need a subtle body, right? But now, what gives, what sculpts a new subtle body and what sculpts a new physical body? What determines that you're going to have a lot of kind of inquiries, sculpting your eye sense? What determines you're going to have a great memory and all of these, tendencies? Well, the impressions and your karma pala. So as long as my eye is put inside the causal body, what's going to happen? A new body will be born. Because the causal body, all it does, it just gives birth to a new subtle body and a new physical body. That's all the causal body does. So moksha is understanding that despite this causal body, I am attributeless, I am unborn. I have nothing to do with this causal body. Okay? It's early to say this right now because we're not discussing this in detail in this verse. But when I get to the verse, then it will be more and more clear. Why is it that moksha severs connection to the causal body? It doesn't matter what body you're given. It doesn't matter what mind you're given. All that matters is how are you using what you're given? What am I doing with the orientations that I'm given? And this capacity to do what you're given is called free will. Okay? Now, look at this. Free will is one more functionary given to the human being. But didn't we just say that out of your sanchita, you're going to have a certain fragrance coming out of that pot? And that fragrance consists of tendencies. So therefore, those tendencies are going to affect your free will, the kind of actions that you want to apply and not apply. So then people say, well, I have free will. That's true because it's another functionary given to you. But what's going to be causing that free will to make a decision? Orientations. Therefore, even though you do have free will, that free will is not entirely free because it is governed by the past tendencies, the impressions. It's governed by your salary. If you don't have, a big salary, then I can't really do many things. I'm like stuck to a certain decision. I can't travel to India, for example. It's governed by your environment. It's governed by the amygdala, because amygdala is that which is primal, fight or flight. The system that it's like survive, just act impulsively. So when we get educated, what are we doing? We're changing our orientations from amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. That's the newest part of the brain that thinks. That's the part that thinks what is to be done. And therefore, the more the person gets educated, what happens? The more their free will is able to expand, the more they're able to make the right choices. This is why free will is very important. This is why education is very important, because it gives you that ability to express yourself in a much more, wider manner than in a very kind of, born in a very small, narrow vision. Okay? So the point is, free will is there, but it's highly limited by your orientations. And you can help yourself to get out of this orientation. How so? By, right, doing what is to be done, right? It's going to be very hard because you're pushed back by your old impressions, but you can still get yourself to come out of it. Yeah? So this is really the important part. Otherwise, just karma and all this, so what if I'm given this body? What do I do with it is what matters. So along with the body that you're given, along with the mind that you're given, what is it that I'm going to do with this mind? Can I use it to be a celebrity? Yes. Can I use it for moksha? Yes. Equally, the answer is yes. It all depends on where is your focus. That's what I mean by free will. Yes, it's limited. Yes, it's governed by amygdala. It's governed by old orientations. It's governed by your parents. It's governed by the society. It's governed by all of the, the stuff that we've been told, how I can't, I will never succeed. It's governed by all of that also. But you can still help yourself and come out of it.
What if you have societal pressures to stay in that position and you can't exercise?
Then you still have the capacity to make a change in those pressures. For example, so do you see the question? So what if you're governed, what if you're in a societal position that is forcing you to act in a certain way, right? That you're like, well, how do I exercise my free will? Nice example. So there was a policeman who was working in some Indian, somewhere in India. And the only way that he would survive is if he bribed people, because they were kind of a, institution that were making more money besides their police job. And he too was encouraged. You need to bribe people or get money or something, right? Get extra money. Like lie and say, if you don't give me money, then I'm going to give you a ticket. And this guy needed money. He needs to survive to feed his family. And so how did he overcome this, right? Because his free will was limited and governed, like here's what to do, or otherwise you lose your job. So what this guy did is he bribed people. He did do what he was forced to do, but then on the side, he gave 50% of donation. You see? So he's offsetting that free will. So even though he's forced to be in a certain way, he still used his free will to come out of that paradigm and negate the effects of being kind of, pulled down into an adharmic path. Yeah, if you're born in that position, then it's much harder to come out, isn't it? But you can still come out. That's the point. So that's why it's in it for the individual in this life to develop good tendencies so that Nagesh next life can have a much easier time. Okay, so when you guys watch the video, you'll only see like this part. Yeah. Very annoying. Yeah, you can see me now? Okay. So 3 things are connected to the I sense. The sense of smallness, which we just call this as though confinement. So all this means is I look at myself as this confined individual. Cognitively, I understand, even though I seem to be confined, I am not confined. It's a cognitive understanding. The second to which I sense is connected to is the body. And this body, what determines the I sense of being in one body and I sense having another body? Karmajam. That means your past causes. And the third thing that this I sense is connected to is the sakshi or the drik. So what this means is it's connected to immortality. This is why the I sense likes to think it's immortal. It thinks I'm going to live forever because it's connected to that which is immortal. So why are you wearing these 3 bodies? The subtle body, the physical body, and the causal body. And what the verse says is,
Is it because this is the only body is the only vehicle to get you to...
The question is, even though it's the only vehicle, why did you come with this vehicle, right? And what the verse says is bhranti, Because of ignorance. Okay? Now, what does this mean, ignorance? How did ignorance exactly give me this body? Well, if you think about who you are, your attributeless reality. So what this means that even though I am attributeless without any attributes of the person, without any kind of qualities of itself, because my identity is intimately associated to the subtle and the causal body, right? So I see myself as this person. And who is it that does actions in this world? The person does actions in this world. So the person does actions in this world, whether good or bad actions, and those results of those actions go into the causal body. And so it becomes kind of like a normal pursuit. I'm born in this world to gain fulfillment. And in order to gain fulfillment, I have to go into the world and I have to do stuff to gain a sense of fulfillment. And every time I do stuff, even if it's great stuff, I just attract more punyam onto the causal body. Therefore, when this person dies, right, the causal body still remains, and therefore someone else gets born because the causal body hasn't, kind of exhausted all of the results of actions. So suppose, right, the person lives and they go and kill someone, and then they die. You think you can get away with that? So I'm going to rob a bank, right? I'm going to shoot a couple of people, and then the police shoot me, right? Or suppose I kind of like die naturally. So, and you think I can get away with that? The system is made in such a way that you can't get away with that. So if this person now dies, having all of that shooting and all of that robbing done in the background, when this person dies, then what kind of a person will be born next life, right? The one that's going to get a body and a mind consistent with, right, with the old results of actions. So I'll probably be born in a family that is not so intelligent, more like rougher, like, I don't know, right? But it's going to be a different family that kind of reflects the kind of orientations that I came with. So, and then again, oh, look, I'm here in this world. Now I'm going to continue doing fulfillment in this world. Again, getting more results of actions going inside your karmic account, your causal body. So this continues for how long? Forever. That's why you have a body right now. Because Raj in the previous life has not understood that the nature of I is free of the three bodies. It's free of the physical body, subtle body, and the causal body. He has not understood that. And therefore, this person is now born and has to go through this life. So in one life, you understand through this methodology that despite the presence of this physical and subtle body, right, the actions that are done are not done by me, the Drg. They're done by the Drsya. They're done by the seen. I simply illuminate the person.
That's cheating.
I don't, I simply illuminate the person, right? That means you shift your identity. It's just like, in an ocean wave example. So we have this metaphor where the wave, right, in one of the millions of waves in the ocean, and the wave's focus is on itself. Now, suppose you give the wave two eyes, and the wave's like, ooh, that's a nice wave over there. Let me go get that wave. And they get married together, right? And they produce wavy babies, right? And so, and then now kind of get caught up making wavy money and wavy, status and all of this business. Where is their focus? On the names and forms, right? And now who's doing all of those actions? The waves are doing all of those actions, right? The waves, their nature is causing them to do all of those actions. But what is the truth of the wave? It's the entire ocean, right? The entire ocean, which is the truth of all waves. So this means as long as my focus is on the wave, the one that's compelled to do, based on my past orientations, always doing, I simply continue, the I continues doing, because that's where its focus is. The moment you shift that focus from the doer, right, to the doer that's constantly doing all day long, onto the truth of the doer, then the entire account of the doer is dismissed at once. No matter what the doer has done, no matter whether the doer has done good things or not so good things, now because the focus, the change of identity has shifted onto the truth of all doers, which has no attributes of its own, then at once, whatever Andre has done is instantly released at once. Therefore, when that wave finally comes back, it merges, right? It comes to the end of its life, what happens? Then there's just simply no more waviness to come because the identity has changed from wave onto the ocean. So like this, the moment I realize in one life, through this logic, that the Drsya is that which does things. The Drsya is that which accrues the results of its actions. And I'm that which simply illumines this person. I come to understand that, wow, so all of this time I thought I was this person. I thought I had all of these things to do and take care of and be responsible. And it's true. But I have now understood that none of this has anything to do with the Drg. That who is not a doer, simply in its presence, it just lights up this world, moving about, doing its thing, right? Walking and moving and talking. All of this thing is just creation. It's just creation. And the creation is never going to end, by the way. So as long as my sense of I is in creation, then how do I manifest as the created one? I am created again and again and again. Despite this created person, my truth is not this person that's talking to you right now. My truth is consciousness. And we already understood, hopefully, how consciousness has no attributes because it's unborn. So if I am the unborn one, and what is born? A new body is born. So the moment I shift my focus onto the unborn one, then when this body dies, am I born? No. Why? Because consciousness is unborn. Okay, so in summary, so we have Chidabhasa. So when the body-mind comes or is born in consciousness, consciousness seems to be confined. Okay? Now this is natural for all of us. When it comes to the body, why do you get the body that you have right now? Because of karma jam, past causes. And lastly, why did the body come in the first place? Because of ignorance, bhranti. Now, the next verse just wants to, before we move on to creation, how creation came, the next verse wants to show that there's a relativity of this I sense. It just wants to make a closure to show you that this I sense has no reality of its own. It's entirely mithya. Okay. So, and how does it do this? It does this through the three states, which I kind of mentioned already. Verse 10. Ahankara laye saptao bhavet dehaha api achetanaha. Ahankara vikasaradhaha swapna sarvaha tu jagaraha. This I sense is not so solid after all, because our error is putting our I in the I sense. And it does this by showing that in the waking state, this I sense is connected to, as I said, the body, the memory, mind, intellect, and so on. And therefore, your experience of the waking state is very different than in the dream. Why? Because in the dream, you take the body away. That's why there's no hunger in the dream, because there's no data of hunger coming into your I sense. You relate to this so far? Yeah. Now, in the dream, what happens is this I sense is connected to your memory, mind, and intellect. And what determines your dream? What the verse says is your past waking impressions. So whatever you have done in the waking state, and whatever is unresolved, that is pushed under the carpet, or I just didn't have time to look into it, all of that stuff comes out in the dream state. And therefore, what happens in the dream state is you create your own body out of your own imagination. What kind of body? The kind of body that you see yourself worthy of being. So if I think I'm worthy of being a king, that's the kind of body that I will build. If I unconsciously see myself as a pauper, I will create a body of a pauper. So the dream becomes a little window to see how you really see yourself, right? Now, therefore, the I sense changes between the waker and the dreamer so far. You see how the I sense is changing? Different data. So whatever's changing is dependent on variables, therefore it's mithya. And in sleep, as I said, this entire thing is resolved in a causal body, right? Now, what wakes you up in the morning? Don't say alarm clock. Prarabdha, good. So in the morning, you get woken up. And what happens in that day after you wake up? You go through a new day, right? That kind of carries over from yesterday. There's a perfect continuity from yesterday. So this pressure, right? Kind of like that pressure cooker, right? The fragrance can't get stored in there for too long. It has to come out. And this coming out is what we call the prarabdha for the day. That's why you have every single day different, because it's kind of like a new release of what is to be experienced. One day you're sort of like this, next day you're like a different person, right? Sometimes you feel really nice about yourself, next day you feel like down and not so motivated. All of this is this new pressure that's going to cause you to live a certain orientation for one single day. And that pressure is exactly the same pressure that gives birth to a new body. They say that going to sleep is very similar like death. When we go to sleep, there's a causal body there, right? All of my impressions, all of the unresolved, all of that stuff has to come out. And then what comes out is that pressure. It can't get stored. It has to release into the world. And that gives birth to the I sense in the morning. Just like that, for death, the pressure comes out, right? And therefore that pressure sculpts a new physical body. Same thing, just waking up, but you wake up where? Not from the body of yesterday, you get woken up in a brand new body. That's the only difference between deep sleep and waking up. And when you wake up in the morning, where do you, the subtle body, wake up? In the body that I had yesterday. Death, where do you wake up? In a new body. Yeah. But you have still woken up in a new body, right? Where is our biggest identity error? In which one of these states? The waking. In fact, look at this. The waking itself only lasts about 12 hours, 15 hours. So if it's dependent on the other, if it's not the entire thing, then it by definition is also mithya, right? It's another scene. That's why you say waking state is drsya, dream state is drsya, deep sleep state is drsya. So if all of the three states are seen, then there has to be something that is not the three states. So whatever happens in the waking state, if the waking state from yesterday has been seen, the waking state, the dream state from yesterday has been seen, and the deep sleep from yesterday has been seen, then all of that stuff is seen by that one who is free of all of that stuff. Same thing right now. Whatever is happening in this entire waking state is going to be, it is seen. Tomorrow, this whole thing experienced today is just going to be another seen object of experience. Therefore, the drg remains even free of whatever happens in the entire waking state because it is seen. To see something means I am other than what is seen. Where do you die? In the waking state. We could die in a dream, whatever. You just died in one of the three states. Three states: waking, dream, sleep. Waking, dream, sleep. Where do you gain moksha? In the waking state. You die, where do you get born? In the waking state. You get born in 1/3 of reality. You gain moksha in 1/3 of reality. And you get, you die in 1/3 of reality. And what is the drg? That one who is the witness of the waking, the dream, and the sleep. Therefore, even moksha has nothing to do with me. So for who is moksha then? For that one who is in the waking state. For the jiva, for the person. All three states in the presence of drg are seen. So whatever happens, whether there's a person that's born, person who gets moksha, person who makes a mistake, person who this, it's all seen in one of these three states. Therefore, I am free of even the person that's sitting down now, thinking about this, probably asking, when are we going to get a break, right? This is too much, this is too little. All of this is just one of the three states. And all of this is going to be seen from the reference point of tomorrow. You're going to be remembering, that person tomorrow is going to be remembering, I remember sitting down yesterday. But that person who's going to be remembering that is also going to be witnessed by the drg, the same drg that is witnessing this experience right now. Okay, now the next verse is going to change the orientation and is going to ask, from verse 13 onwards, so far we have established, yes, I am drg. But then how do you explain the universe? How did this universe come out of awareness? Right? If I'm the seer, how do I account for this body, for birds, for plants, for the sun, for the chair? How do I account for these three states? How did all of this come? And this will be spoken of in the next section. Without starting, I just want to revise a few points. So far, we have spoken about the three seers, the eye sense, which is the mind, right? The sense organs, and the sakshi. The mind, or the eye sense, and the sense organs are mithya. They have no existence apart from the sakshi satyam. This was the first. The second is, I just want to cover this, I kind of did already, but when it comes to moksha, it's important to understand that that which is all pervasive means you don't have to do anything to produce it. It's already here now. It's already obtaining in the three states. As what? As the seer of the three states. That's why all of us know about the three states. And we just established that, if you see something, that you can't be it, what you see. You can't be what you see, because you see it. So if we all see the three states, that means whatever sees the three states is the same from my standpoint. Whatever sees the three states is also the same from your standpoint. Okay. So when it comes to kind of like getting something new, right? I want to get something new. Then it's a very different pursuit. Like I said, if you want to learn, physics, then you have to go to school and do things and kind of exercise and whatever. So it's a lot of action is involved. But when it comes to discovering something that's already true, then what prevents you from discovering it? What prevents you from not knowing about it? You're not knowing about it. Therefore, when it comes to gaining access to something that is always true, then it's not a matter of action, because action is meant to produce something. But we're talking about something in whose presence, right, all of these things are already kind of happening, and they're illumined. Whether it's doing or not doing, it's just illumining all of this. So when it comes to moksha, it's just understanding I am the light that lights up all of this. I can't do anything to produce it because it's already present. I don't have to do anything to summon it because it is unborn. To summon something means to bring it into existence for the first time. But I was conscious yesterday already. Therefore, there's no point of summoning anything into the future. So moksha is what we call a praptasya prapti pursuit. A praptasya prapti means a pursuit where no amount of action is going to bring it into light. It's like if I have my glasses up, Like, where's my glasses? Where's my glasses? Where's the glasses, right? Now, the more I look for the glasses, the irony, even though I have them on me, the farther I get away from them, even though they're always on me. Now, suppose, and then I move out of the room, and then I start asking, bothering people, where's the glasses? Oh, we haven't seen it. And I go out and I bother everyone looking for something that I already have right now. So when it comes to moksha, there's no question of doing something, but just rather understanding what is true right here, right now. Awareness. That is the one common thing for all. That awareness is the final truth from which the universe comes. If you are in touch with that much, that is what we call moksha. Oh, it's too much. No, it's not. It's not supposed to be complex. It's supposed to be even easier than 1 + 1. As I said yesterday, you know that you exist. You know that you're aware. If you know that much, well, I don't know, halfway or quarter way, but it's not a matter of halfway. It's just, right, you understand the logic. And when the understanding takes place, there's no more doubts about it. Okay. Now, speaking of this, next verse will continue and talk about how the creation came. And then we will change the entire discussion onto what's now called Maya. And the inquiry will change completely from now on. So this will happen, what time? Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.